The violence doesn't come from Democrats, just to be clear. I mean, obviously anyone can be a criminal, but it is MAGA. It's specifically MAGA faction. Like, I don't think traditional Republicans are getting engaged in all of this, but like, even when we look at, and they don't talk about the assassination attempts anymore that took place with Donald Trump, but these were Trump supporters, right? As well as this most recent situation, they tried to flip it and say, oh, the leftists are, I'm like, this doesn't even make sense, right? But it's only like MAGA that does this.
Do y'all remember just not too long ago, there was a video where we talked about Jasmine Crockett being removed, and the other YouTube videos that we were actually reading titles from and thumbnails about this removal from Congress? I got to tell you guys, this is unreal. Absolutely unbelievable. I can't believe what's going on and what's happening and how this is actually playing out and working. It's strange. It's really odd. And I'll probably share more with members on the channel and over on Patreon. And it says here, in Wokeness says, Representative Jasmine Crockett, she quotes, or is quoted here, she says, violence is coming from MAGA, not the left. Even the two who tried killing Trump are Trump supporters. And, you know, I guess the idea of MAGA is controversial right now. And I don't know if anyone really knows what that really means or looks like anymore. For the most part, at least not online. But this does remind me of a conversation I was having just the other day with someone that I mentor. And we were on the topic of, when it comes to building a business, building a brand, content, YouTube, social media, are you an educator or are you an entertainer? There's a difference, and it matters. And this trend is catching on. Wow, Jasmine Crockett removed from Congress after FBC confirms she stole money, $870,000 from white people. That's from the real A-Dog. Jasmine Crockett removed from Congress after threatening Melania and Barron Trump at Hollywood Awards. But this trend is catching on. And we even see, Marco Rubio removed from Congress after Jasmine Crockett's shocking revelation. John Kennedy tries to have Jasmine Crockett removed. Her response leaves the room speechless. And that one's doubled up. Marco Rubio removed from Congress after Jasmine Crockett exposed this live on air. Marco Rubio removed from Congress. Yeah, these are doubled up. And it's just interesting to see these specific videos, titles, thumbnails shared on this platform. And then even going back to this morning, talking about Pete Hegseth and how many folks just chose to ignore the obvious as it was shown to you plain as day, clearly on the screen. I don't know how to make heads or tails of it, but I do know and understand that this is the world we live in. This is what's happening. And this is what I'm going to show you next. We've got a lot to discuss here, folks. Stick with me here.
What we have seen is corruption at the highest levels against President Trump. The deep state threw everything at him to prevent him from coming back to this big, beautiful White House behind me. And he prevailed, and the truth must come out. And this administration is totally committed to transparency and to justice and to accountability. And we must have a rule of law in this country. We can't be a nation without law and order. That's what the president believes in. And I'm glad to see the Department of Justice is opening up this investigation.
It took a lot of people involved. It took doctors, psychiatrists, gynecologists, dentists. All these people knew what was going on, hairstylists. I mean, the list goes on. I could keep going on and on and on. Drivers, chauffeurs, butlers, housemaids. It took all of these people turning a blind eye, which they weren't blind to because we were right there blatantly in front of them. They knew exactly what was going on. Everyone's turned a blind eye in the place where I was supposed to be protected, in my country where I was supposed to be protected. The justice system failed us.
We all did. And the FBI handed over a couple hundred pages of documents. But, you know, Sean, I gave them a deadline of Friday at 8 a.m. to get us everything. And a source had told me where the documents were being kept. Southern District of New York, shock. So we got them all by, hopefully all of them, Friday at 8 a.m., thousands of pages of documents. I have the FBI going through them, and Cash is also, now that we have Cash here, it's a game changer, of course, and Cash is going to, Director Patel is going to get us a detailed report as to why the FBI withheld all of those documents.
Okay, I want to be clear because I think people got frustrated because they were expecting more. You were expecting more, and you didn't find out less than 24 hours before the release. You got a whistleblower that confirmed that there were way more documents that they were supposed to turn over, and then you found out just before that.
Well, sure. And you're looking at these documents going, these aren't all the Epstein files. You know, there were flight logs, there were names and victims' names. And we're going, where's the rest of the stuff? And that's what the FBI had turned over to us. And so a source said, whoa, all this evidence is sitting in the Southern District of New York. Yep. So based on that, I gave them the deadline, Friday at 8, a truckload of evidence arrived. It's now in the possession of the FBI. Cash is going to get me and himself, really, a detailed report as to why all these documents and evidence had been withheld. And, you know, we're going to go through it as fast as we can, but go through it very cautiously to protect all the victims of Epstein, because there are a lot of victims.
Well, you had identified in phase one over 254.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, is that the only thing that would be redacted? Will everything else be made public that you get in your possession?
Yeah, the FBI hasn't had, obviously, they haven't looked at the thousands of pages of documents that they've just received Friday. Yeah. But Cash has a team going through them, and it's always about protecting the victim. But you know what? We believe in transparency, and America has the right to know. The Biden administration sat on these documents. No one did anything with them. And why were they sitting in the Southern District of New York? I want a full report on that. You know, sadly, these people don't believe in transparency, but I think more, unfortunately, I think a lot of them don't believe in honesty. And it's a new day, it's a new administration, and everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know.
And that goes the same with the JFK files,
JFK,
RFK files,
Martin
MLK.
Luther King. Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What are the things that, and maybe some people don't understand the need to redact. In the case of a victim, that should be pretty obvious to people. What are the other things that maybe you would have to redact?
Well,
national security?
No, of course, national security, some grand jury information, which is always going to be confidential. But we'll see. Let's look through them as fast as we can, get it out to the American people, because the American people have a right to know, not only on that, but on Kennedy, on Martin Luther King, on all of these cases that the Biden administration has just sat on for all these years. So yeah, it's really. It's not sad. It's infuriating that these people thought that they could sit on this information, but they can't. It's a new day, and we believe in transparency, and it's going to come out. And when we redact things, Sean, what we're going to do is not just pull pages out like they used to do. If something's redacted, you will know the line, and you will know why it's redacted, like a victim's name, identifying information of a victim.
There is no Epstein list. Jeffrey Epstein took his own life in his jail cell while awaiting trial. No other high-profile people are going to be charged in connection with any of Epstein's crimes, and no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. And that's the end of it. That's the final word in this memo from the Trump administration's Department of Justice and FBI, which was just released yesterday. Oh, and they also released this footage of the outside of Epstein's jail cell. But instead of closing the book on the Epstein case, what just happened only raises more questions. So here's what's going on.
This literally seems like the only thing that anyone's talking about or is willing to talk about. Crazy, insane, to say the least. More so crazy or insane that I'm seeing now are requests for Pam Bondi to be removed, and perhaps maybe even a new Senate confirmation hearing of her replacement. Stay tuned, folks. Well, some of you, a lot of you have already left. A lot of you have unsubscribed from the channel, and that's okay, because I feel like the people who have left and unsubscribed fall into this very same category that I'm about to read to you right now. And this comment here says, never voting again. They all lie to us, and I trust none now. Disgusting. All politicians. But at the same time, you know, I put up a community post where some folks are saying that, you know, they're done with Trump. Literally, this one scenario, they're done with Trump. But much like the video clip that we played this morning of the MAGA supporter throwing all his MAGA gear in the trash can, is it real? Is it fake? Were they paid and hired to create this content, or did they just not throw it in the garbage and they said, let me capitalize on an opportunity here to ride this viral wave and push to boost my follower count, subscriber base, and more importantly, my income and my revenue? Because that can happen. That was on TikTok. It could happen on TikTok. It could happen on X. It could happen on YouTube. It can happen anywhere. And this is wild. This is crazy. This is breaking. Elon Musk has unfollowed Pam Bondi on X. What's your reaction? We've got more to talk about later about Elon and his activity on X. So stick with me here, folks. Don't go anywhere. Stay locked in. The Babylon Bee, if you know, you know, says Pam Bondi explains why she was going to release the Epstein files, but then some pedophiles asked her not to.
The Department of Justice and the FBI just released this short page-and-a-half memo along with video of outside of Jeffrey Epstein's cell. And if you want to read this memo and you want to see this video for yourself, I'm going to email the documents out to you in my Facts HQ email tonight. So make sure you sign yourself up. According to the memo, the FBI and the DOJ are re-releasing the video that we've seen before, except now they have enhanced it, they've balanced the color, and improved the sharpness so you can have greater clarity and viewability. The video is being released again to show that no one could have entered Jeffrey Epstein's cell after he was locked in about 10:40 p.m. on August 9th of 2019. This memo says the Trump administration has conducted an exhaustive review of the investigative holdings related to Jeffrey Epstein. They have found the same thing that officials in New York and the Biden administration found back in 2023. Nothing to see here. And the Trump DOJ and FBI said, consistent with prior disclosures, Epstein harmed more than 1,000 victims. The only documents that have not been disclosed to the public are being withheld to protect the victims. The FBI says those documents did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. The FBI memo goes on to say their systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. So if that's true, then why did Attorney General Pam Bondi bring a bunch of influencers over to the White House and give them huge binders of so-called Epstein documents to only have to later reveal that there was nothing new in those binders and then have to try and clean it up by going on Fox News in late February and claiming that the Epstein list was on her desk to review? Fox News' White House reporter asked the White House press secretary today to try and clean that up.
So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars. They have an operation going on right now called Summer Heat, which has our murder rate trending in the lowest direction in United States history. Their emphasis on violent crime and locking up violent criminals has led to the arrest of 14,000 violent criminals. That's a 62% increase from the same time period last year. So this Attorney General and the FBI Director are committed to putting bad people behind bars where they belong. They promised an exhaustive review. That's what they did. For any further details, I would refer you to the Department of Justice.
You can decide for yourself if you think that's a good answer or a bad answer or an answer at all. Obviously, this memo is raising a lot of questions, but also raising questions is that video that was included with the memo. Again, DOJ and the FBI say it proves that no one went into Epstein's cell at the SHU in New York after he was locked in on August 9th of 2019. They re-released the same video that we've seen, but just like before, if you watch closely, A full minute is missing from that video. Watch as the timestamp jumps from 11:58 and 58 seconds to 12 a.m. and 1 second. What happened at 11:59 p.m.? That has still not been cleared up.
We've got questions. People want answers. And if you still aren't saving as much as you possibly can on your health care and Medicare, call Chapter. The number's on the screen. It's free to call. Fast, simple, easy, no pressure. These folks are just here to help. And that's why I love sharing them with all of you folks. And I understand some folks kind of get discouraged by these ads in the middle of the videos, but that's just selfish, because that just means that you don't want others to experience the same money-saving benefits and opportunities that, because it interrupts your video for 30 to 60 seconds. Like, come on, guys, give me a break. Call Chapter now, 270-467-2426. I bet you'll be glad that you did, and find out how much money you can save. Find out which plan, which Medicare plan and coverage actually fits your needs. Get answers to questions that you may have, and do it now before it's too late. Enrollment periods have a small window of opportunity, and if you snooze, you lose, folks. Chapter is amazing and a wonderful partner, and they've already helped so many folks just like you save thousands. Dial 270-467-2426. The number's on your screen, and I'll leave that information available for the duration of this video, as well as down below in the description and in the pinned comment. Benny Johnson says, breaking: Biden's doctor, Kevin O'Connor, pleads the Fifth and refuses to testify in a closed-door hearing on the massive cover-up of Biden's health. New York Post says Biden's doctor, Kevin O'Connor, pleads Fifth rather than answer questions about ex-president's health. Libs of TikTok says Biden's doctor, who said Biden was perfectly healthy, is refusing to testify. Of course he's hiding. And Robbie Starbuck says there was a congressional hearing today about Biden's mental health when he was president, and Biden's doctor used his Fifth Amendment right to not answer questions to avoid self-incrimination. But why? If Biden was mentally unfit, then everything done in his name is suddenly invalid.
Dr. O'Connor, how is that? Excuse me. Yes, sir.
Will you make any comments to press, sir?
Do you have a message for the committee?
Dr. O'Connor,
What are you prepared to say?
was President Biden mentally fit to serve as president?
Dr. O'Connor, what's your message to the committee?
You think he was up to serve? Thank you. Have you told the truth the entire time that he was, in fact, up to serve? Well, we know it was pretty short, only about a half an hour behind closed doors here. And Kevin O'Connor, we believe he may have invoked his Fifth Amendment privileges here. We tried to get him as he was just leaving just a couple of minutes ago. He did not respond to any of my questions, and he did not respond to my questions going in as well. Listen. Dr. O'Connor, good morning. Will you invoke the Fifth? What about patient-doctor confidentiality? What are you prepared to say? The Trump White House has waived executive privilege for Biden officials. Kevin O'Connor apparently invoked the Fifth Amendment. That made it.
Forbes breaking news just in. John Thune details Republicans' next steps after passing big, beautiful bill. But first, I want you guys to take a look at this. Is this what we think it is? Is this Pam Bondi's replacement? Watch live. Kimberly Guilfoyle, Trump nominees face Senate confirmation hearing already.
Culture agencies in Rome. I am joined here today by my family, my husband John, son Benjamin, my daughters and several, Haley, Karen, Jennifer, Gracie, and Lucero, and my twin sister, whose unwavering love and support have made this moment possible. I would not be here without them. Our country has afforded me many opportunities for which I'm very grateful. I married at 19, became a mom to a 3-year-old son shortly thereafter, and earned my degree in my 30s when we were finally able to afford it. I'm a proud adoptive parent of children from all over the world, my mini UN, as we are affectionately called, as you can see behind me. I have served in a variety of professional roles, at times just to make ends meet. This includes serving as an orthopedic assistant, business executive, and humanitarian. I have partnered with international business leaders and foreign dignitaries on projects to improve education, decrease poverty, and instill dignity and hope. Our nonprofit organization has provided care to thousands of children across the globe. I bring to this role a combination of humanitarian passion, business acumen, and large-scale management experience. I was honored to serve as U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of Slovenia during President Trump's first term, where I was able to advance critical administration priorities from 5G technology deployment and U.S. energy strategy to negotiating a multi-billion-dollar memorandum of understanding for a new nuclear partnership between the United States and Slovenia. I was privileged to also been serving as ambassador to Slovenia when the public perception of the U.S. actually turned notably more positive. Today, the need for change and reform within the United Nations is more urgent than ever. Under the leadership of President Trump and Secretary Rubio, the United States is reevaluating its relationship with international organizations and ensuring our involvement advances American interests. The United States has the opportunity to shape UN food and agriculture agencies to overcome the challenges of our time. I understand the importance of the U.S. mission to UN agencies in Rome. Food security is a life or death issue for hundreds of millions of people around the world. Moreover, these agencies directly affect U.S. farmers and producers as billions of dollars of American agriculture exports move through their programs. However, over the years, the United Nations and its associated agencies have continued to grow and expand their mandate beyond original intentions. With this growth, a proliferation of bloated bureaucracies has taken hold, distracting the UN from its core principles. President Trump and Secretary Rubio recognize this issue and have asked the State Department to re-examine our engagement with UN organizations. If confirmed, I will bring everything I have to ensure that the UN organizations the United States chooses to engage with are efficient and effective stewards of U.S. taxpayer dollars. As Secretary Rubio has also said, every dollar we spend, every program we fund, and every policy we pursue must be justified with the answer to 3 simple questions. Does it make America safer? Does it make America stronger? And does it make America more prosperous?
New this morning, outrage among the president's own supporters over how the Department of Justice is handling the so-called Jeffrey Epstein files. In a series of scathing posts on Twitter, longtime Trump ally, fierce supporter Laura Loomer called for the president to fire Attorney General Pam Bondi. This all happened after a memo released by the Department of Justice and the FBI this week said that accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide, confirmed that. The Attorney General also said there is no evidence that Epstein kept a, quote, client list, despite previously suggesting there would be some kind of bombshell. CNN's Elena Treen live at the White House this morning, where this just doesn't seem to be going away, Elena.
Yeah, John, and it's not just, people who are in the MAGA movement, in the president's base, and I will say there's many. It's not just Laura Loomer, but many other prominent people like Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, the list goes on, who have been really reeling from the drop of that memo that the Justice Department released on Sunday, essentially concluding, in their words, that Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide and that there's no so-called client list. But there's a lot of people as well inside the White House, the president's own officials, who are increasingly extremely frustrated with how not just the Justice Department, but specifically Attorney General Pam Bondi has handled this. I mean, I spoke with one Trump advisor. They said that Bondi had bungled this case from the start by overpromising some of the findings that they were anticipating. Another advisor told me that this was a political nightmare, questioning why they released this at this point in time and the way in which they did it. Again, releasing this short memo and also leaking it to a certain media outlet. Look, part of these problems as well that adds to all of this is Bondi's own claim back in February when she was doing an interview with Fox News where she said she had the client list on her desk for review. Now, she was pressed on some of these questions yesterday during the president's cabinet meeting and tried to argue that she was referring to the broader case. I want you to take a listen to both that interview, but also her response.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that.
Now, look, we talked to a lot of different people following Bondi's answer there yesterday in that cabinet room who said that essentially they are not satisfied by that answer, particularly given so many people in the MAGA movement, so many of the president's supporters, and including even some people in his own administration had previously argued that there was so much more to this case, particularly wanting to unearth potential accomplices to Jeffrey Epstein, not totally satisfied by this. Now, the president, for his part, John, has argued that this is old news. He kind of dismissed some of the questions on this yesterday in that cabinet meeting as a desecration. And we are told that he's not acutely annoyed with Bondi herself. He was briefed on some of these findings last week by Bondi and the FBI director, Kash Patel, but still a lot of people inside the White House not exactly happy with how this all played out.
All right, Elena Treen at the White House this morning. Thank you.
Breaking news about the Epstein case.
Turns out there is no client list, at all.
Seriously, they sure fooled me. Shapiro-Stein, take it away.
At Epstein Island, it turns out all of the people that were trafficked here just didn't exist. After all, the dude isn't even alive to tell us anymore. Jenny, back to you.
We're here outside of that dude's wife's prison holding the first person ever to be convicted of trafficking to nobody. I'm here with Ghislaine, serving 20 years for having imaginary friends, thousands of Epstein victims, but zero clients. How are you?
I 100% deserve this.
True. Where's the client list?
Israel is our greatest ally. What do you think of the verdict? How about ask how much I got paid? No other comments. What do you think of this? Sometimes you have to just let that long arm of the law all the way into the back of your colon and just let it marinate, you know? What the heck?
Sounds like we could use another Luigi, if you know what I'm saying.
Right. It's almost like the so-called Semites run the court systems and media or something.
Shut it down. My grandparents were in the pizza cost. You know that. How many times do I have to tell you? Now, back to the goy slop.
Sorry, Shapiro-Stein. Won't happen again. In other news, we're down the street from where your grandparents got pizza costed. Jackie goes live from inside Elephantis' hub. We're here at Comet Pizza. Did you hear about the 6 million pizzas?
I heard they only did 271,000. But anyways, you want to see my kill room?
It's true. Anyone can search the archive for CYM Corporation's files and find out everything.
Cut. Okay, we cut that in post-production. Jenny, don't say anything antiseptic.
If only everyone saw Hillary's emails, people would understand the whole adrenochrome issue is real.
Not now. They're not ready for that. Just give them the Epstein thing and shut them down.
Right, John?
You're not wrong about that Hillary thing. Anyways, if you're still not following Jake GTV yet, you're legally retarded.
With us now, CNN political commentator, Republican strategist Michael Singleton, and Christine Quinn, the executive committee chair of the New York State Democratic Committee. And just to review some of the people calling for Bondi's head here. Again, it's Laura Loomer, fierce supporter of the president, putting out these tweets. She needs to be fired. She has tainted the investigation. Elon Musk, one-time friend of the president, saying, how can people be expected to have faith in Trump if he won't release the Epstein files? And then Megyn Kelly in Politico pointed this out this morning, said of Pam Bondi, her days are numbered as a member of the Trump administration. I mean, sure, Michael, this isn't just one person now. Yeah. It's a lot, and it's not getting quieter. It's getting louder.
It's not getting quieter, and she made a statement that many believed was accurate, which was that she was going to attempt to prosecute the individuals, whether it's Republican men, Democratic men, who were engaged with Jeffrey Epstein and doing some pretty atrocious and disgusting things against young girls and young women. I mean, what type of society doesn't rally around protecting young girls and women? I've been involved with groups in the past wanting to bring and shine a spotlight on these types of issues. And my hope would be the top cop in the nation would take this very seriously. And she really isn't. And a lot of Republicans are scratching their heads, questioning why. I think this is a bipartisan issue. I think Americans want these powerful men, whoever they are, to be brought to justice.
And the president was asked about this in this cabinet meeting yesterday. Let's listen to how he responded.
And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration.
Christine, the president's wishing it away here, but it was his own supporters, right. People like J.D. Vance, not to mention the people we've all listed there, talking about the Epstein files all during the campaign. I mean, this was a thing that his people were pushing, and now he's like, nothing to see here.
Right, his people pushed it. His appointee brought it back up square in front of everyone with saying there would be prosecutions, things would be released, and now nothing. And what's a desecration is what happened to those girls and those young women, not reporters appropriately asking questions, which are not new questions, but follow-up questions to what Pam Bondi had already put out there. And when you make promises to prosecute, to release information, and you don't, then all theories come up. And it's a terrible thing that there are people saying the president might be on the list. How horrible would that be? They can put all of this to rest by putting all the information out there. And you're right, this isn't Republican or Democrat. This is a matter of justice. And that is what Pam Bondi should be focused on.
And that's why people are upset about with Pam Bondi. I mean, these conservatives, Megyn Kelly, I mean, even Tucker Carlson talking about this. Charlie Kirk had a post on X, and he said, even if Republicans were on the list, would you be okay with them being brought to justice? And overwhelmingly, the responses were yes, because people want to protect the innocence of young girls and young women, and we should all be about that.
And again, it was people within this administration promising it would be released. We'll see where this goes next.
My name is Special Agent Smith with the Department of Justice, and I'd like to report that after a full investigation, we've concluded Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide. Alone, no foul play, nobody came to a cell, it was just a suicide. Also, nobody flew to Epstein Island. There is no evidence of that. It is all hearsay. And to be clear, there is no client list. None at all. That is all a conspiracy theory brought up by people like Alex Jones and Fox News. Also, Epstein did not work with Mossad. Yes, he had ties with Israel, Ehud Barak, and Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, but that's neither here nor there. Remember, we're the Department of Justice. Why would we lie?
This is supposed to be about the most transparent administration ever.
What on earth is going on? Was Pam Bondi set up by deep state FBI career officials? Is she stupid? Is she so click thirsty that she got out over her skis trying to make news, being a Fox News star?
Pam Bondi, all of it. All those videos are saying, yeah, she's seen the videos. It's all coming out. And then now it doesn't exist. I mean, what? What?
Alex Jones broadcasting from his car. Okay, so how much of a political risk is President Trump taking by dismissing the priorities of portions of the base? CNN's Aaron Blake writes, everyone has their limits. Trump's giving them reasons to be suspect about his and top administration officials' intentions. And there's been at least some evidence of a brewing backlash. Group chat is back. I have to be honest, I remember the backlash, many minutes ago over the strikes on Iran. And it feels like that's a way more significant and important issue than that. And everybody rolled.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think two things. I think we've seen President Trump, this term and last term, be like a rain jacket. Some of these things just roll off of him. But here's the reality. I think we've all been afraid to say this. President Donald Trump is a lame duck president. And so some of these things we're talking about politically will not hurt him because he is a lame duck president. What I'm concerned about what's going to happen in 2026 with the Congress, with Senate. So I think some of these things are going to be harder for the Republican Party to talk about than this President Trump.
But a lot of big people went to that island. But fortunately, I was not one of them.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be.
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. You know, they do that for danger too, because, you know, endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing. But yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
Look, I'll be honest. There's so many weird, bizarro Addams Family-esque stories that people go down rabbit holes when it comes to the MAGA base. I've never read a Jeffrey Epstein story. When somebody complains that Donald Trump has not told us where Elvis is really living, I'm not going to read that ever. Also, because Donald Trump is right. We have Texas, and we have what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. We have
but nobody
Iran
asked
and Iraq.
Pam Bondi to make a bunch of binders to hang, to
That's
send
fine.
to the Twitterati. It feels like a cell
I
phone.
think the mental health of America or Americans is much better off not paying attention to those crazy, shiny things.
Well, to be fair, President Trump has also set up his cabinet to be these sort of TV, Twitter.
Right.
folks.
Hire
So
professionals.
yeah, exactly.
That's always-
so I think
always
that's,
a good
that's
lesson.
that's kind of baked in.
Yeah.
I do think there are a few different stories that we're all going to look at as like litmus tests of how far can the president depart from the MAGA base or press them. I do think like a conspiracy story that President Trump's circle spent a long time fanning until he came into office, and then they had to they were the establishment and they were the government and they had to decide what information to release, is a little bit different than whether he's changing his policy on Russia via Ukraine or on how to handle deportations of undocumented migrants who are not violent and haven't committed any crimes inside the United States. Like, I put those in two different categories. They both may be tests of the MAGA base, but one is like substantively, unless you really think there's like a triple conspiracy going on, there wasn't any there to the Epstein files, and now the sitting president's administration has to say so, as opposed to a change in U.S. posture.
We also heard one of the folks in that video talking about doing it for clicks. This whole industry is for clicks, right? So I think the question, in a way, I'm kind of asking is, if you ride this certain horse into battle, like it was to their advantage to embrace this when it ginned up interest for him in the party.
Yes.
And now it felt a little bit like he was saying, let the adults talk.
Yeah, I think historically, if you look at those people who back candidates very, very early, they're the first ones to have their hearts broken in certain sort of ways. You go back to the people who endorsed Ronald Reagan in 1976, they were the ones who said, well, wait a second, why are you talking to Russians to begin with? So this is normal in some sense. It's just because Donald Trump has brought so much abnormality to our politics that we're talking about this kind of stuff.
Okay, let's put it like this. I've lost friends over Trump. I've lost family for my support of Trump. I've been called everything in the book, and so have you, from conspiracy theorist to racist to Nazi. I've stood by over and over and over again and watched as this man has done incredible things. I could easily say at one point that this is the best president of our lifetime, maybe ever. But what you're doing right now, Mr. President, when it comes to this Epstein stuff, sir, you guys led us along in this administration all these years talking about Epstein, including yourself. This is something that we feel our politicians are being manipulated and controlled through. You understand, right? Like Epstein recording all these rooms. Why did he do that, sir? If it wasn't to corrupt a politician. We're not buying what you're selling. We watched the FBI pull out all these things from Epstein Island. We know that Ghislaine Maxwell's in prison right now for trafficking. okay? And the connections with her family to the Mossad needs to be talked about. We have questions, and we've waited patiently and patiently and patiently as people threaten us, make fun of us, and call us these conspiracy theorist names that we no longer care about. It doesn't matter, because I'll fight for the truth no matter what it is. And that's where we are right now. How could you say this today in your press conference, sir? With much due respect, as a person that went to January 6th to defend the country and the stolen election that was taken from you, sir, how can you sit there and say this to all of us that have been led along about Epstein, including by Pam Bondi of your Justice Department, Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, people that we picked to be in the FBI for this purpose, and now all of a sudden you have this to say because we ask questions?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Pam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
You raised the question of Jeffrey Epstein in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem. I mean,
what do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an absolute cesspool. So,
the Clintons are friends
and he's
of
been
yours,
there
right?
for many
The
times.
Clintons are friends
Well,
of
I
yours.
can't say friends, but I know
You're
them.
friendly. You know them.
They play at my clubs a lot. I have clubs, and everybody likes to play
Are you
at my
saying
clubs.
there's a political problem for her if she runs for president?
It could be a political problem. Look, he could be a political problem. Right now, he's Teflon, and right now, maybe not. But he could end up being a political
I want to ask one question.
That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure.
What sucks is he's right. We've had a lot of great wins and a lot of good things happen. But this mattered more than you understood, Mr. President. This mattered to us. Virginia Roberts Guffrey, deserves better than what she had to go through and just passed away, being the last physical victim that would have testified. Something's off. I see it with my own eyes, and I pray to God that your heart get convicted, Mr. President, because this is not what God brought you through an assassination attempt for and all these other things that we had to go through to get you back in office. This isn't it, man. This isn't that hill to die on. If you're implicated, so be it. Own it. I'll respect that more than you dumping us all in the grease right now.
And like I said, we've got a lot to discuss here, folks. And this one here, actually, Michelle and I talked about this on the other channel. YouTube changing their monetization settings in 6 days, July 15th. And that's going to hurt a lot of different creators. It's going to hurt a lot of folks, okay? So you're going to want to make sure that if you're a YouTube content creator or you're planning on becoming one, that you know about these changes. And in fact, I actually just saw a new change today, or a new opportunity for future passive income streams by some sound business and diversification strategies associated with content creation and residual income, passive income, dividends. Amazing opportunity, but there's so many folks sleeping on it and in fact downplaying it and actually throwing shade at folks by trying to share this information, which we're going to talk about this in just a second. Actually, I think this post here might actually sum it up. Shadow of Ezra says, a self-proclaimed crypto influencer is mocking public outrage over the Epstein files, saying if you're upset, you're probably just broke. She insists you'll never expose the truth, arrest politicians, or bring down the FBI, and says the real move is to focus on getting rich instead.
You know what is so funny to me? The fact that you have people online crying about the Epstein files. Meanwhile, these very people are completely broke, parents aren't retired, living a shitty life, yet they're online worrying about something that they literally have no control over. Like, what do you think we're going to do? Like, take down the FBI? No. And even if we do ever find out about the Epstein files, we'll never find out the truth. Politicians won't go to jail. And the fact is, we have always lived in a rigged system. Politicians are corrupt, and if you don't know that by now, then I'm sorry, you're just not going to make it. Like, if you don't realize that nothing is going to change, like you're not going to change the world by sitting there on Twitter all day. And if you don't realize that by now, then you're just completely lost. The fact is, if you want change, and you want justice, and you want to help the children, and all these wonderful things, you need power. And how do you get power? Money. You need to save yourself before you can start trying to save the world. Because let me tell you one thing, you will never ever find out the truth. And even if we did, you will never ever take down the powers that be, the people that are in charge. And if you do, and you become big enough or well known enough, then you just end up in jail. They'll take you down anyway. So you want to help the kids, you want to save yourself, make money. Money is power.
Well, she's got a really good point. And if you heard anything that she said, and if you know, you know. I know that I'm not necessarily always talking to, I don't know who I'm talking to, actually, now that I think about it. I have no idea who this video is going to go to, who's going to watch it, what you're going to come in on, how you're going to receive this information. And so, but this is something I talked about a while ago, and the video actually got taken down off of YouTube because I guess it was too much truth. But essentially, Andrew Tate says they do what they did. They do things to you like they did to Trump. And then they try to arrest you, and then they try to bankrupt you, or they try to bankrupt you and then arrest you, and then they'll try to kill you. And so this young lady, she speaks the truth. She's, I have no qualms with what she said or how she chose to deliver this message. And she's right, 1,000%, right? Andrew Tate says the victims were paid $100,000 by USAID funded NGOs to make police reports. And this is about some charges and allegations against Andrew Tate and his brother, I believe. That's the thing. It's like the money, the power, but you get too big, they'll come after you. They'll try to kill you. And we're going to talk about that too, because think about it. Who's going to have who has the greatest chance and possibility of making the biggest change, the biggest splash, making waves in politics right now? It's not Trump. It's not Bondi. It's not Patel. It's not Bongino. It's not Levitt. It's no one in the Trump administration, period. It's Elon Musk. Why? Because he has a lot of money. And you know what happens? Think about it. Elon Musk has a lot of influence. George Soros has a lot of influence. What happens when Elon Musk and George Soros team up together? What happens then, folks? You're going to be wishing you had Trump on your side. You're going to be wishing that MAGA was still a united front.
But I can tell you this. I used to say we will not ever be a socialist country, right? Well, I'll say it again. We're not going to have, if a communist gets elected to run New York, it can never be the same, but we have tremendous power at the White House to run places when we have to. We can run D.C. I mean, we're looking at D.C. We don't want crime in D.C. We want the city to run well. Susie Wiles is working very closely with the mayor, and they're doing all right. I mean, in the sense that we would run it so good, it would be run so proper, we get the best person to run it. The crime would be down to a minimal, would be much less. We're thinking about doing it, to be honest with you. We want a capital that's run flawlessly, and it wouldn't be hard for us to do it. And we've had a good relationship with the mayor, and we're testing it to see if it works. But New York City will run properly. We're going to bring New York back. I love New York. I loved New York for a long time. Then we had a bunch of crooked people in there. You have an attorney general who's a total stone cold crook. New York State, Letitia James, a total crook. All they do is want to go after political opponents. They do what's ever expeditious for them. She's the one that took out Cuomo because she wanted to run for governor, and then she ended up getting 1% of the vote. She polled at 1%. She dropped out, went back to Attorney General. You have a lot of crooked things going on in New York. We're going to straighten out New York. Maybe we're going to have to straighten it out from Washington. But when I see a communist who has actually gotten a Democrat, pretty much gotten a Democrat nomination, they also went to that new form of voting, which is a beauty. You go in there in third place, you come out in first. That's that form of voting that they have gone to. You know what I'm talking about. It's not too good. We're going to do something for New York. I can't tell you what yet, but we're going to make New York great again also. We're going to make it great again with the country. What we've done in this country in the last 6 months, nobody has ever seen it.
You know, it's interesting because there's people out there that want to call President Trump a lame duck. But do you know what that means? A lame duck means basically you've got nothing to lose. Now, granted, I feel like if the Democrats had won, we'd be in the same situation. Nothing to lose. Like, our days would be freaking numbered, okay?
You know what is
However, I feel like I'm in the same boat. I feel at times I feel as if, you know, if Trump, like I get it. I understand it. Okay. And these are circumstances outside of your control, regardless of how honest you are and how great your intentions are and the good that you actually try to do and the truth that you try to tell and the people you try to protect and save and allow to have a future and prosper. You get shit on. However, from that perspective, when you realize you've got nothing to lose, well, then what does it matter? You go all in and you hold nothing back and you make shit happen. Now, granted, there are questions, allegations, you know, rumors circling about how the big, beautiful bill managed to be passed, some concessions that may have been made, backdoor deals, and Diddy being acquitted, found not guilty, and the whole Epstein deal, Elon being pissed off and taking his toys and running to the American Party. I got some other news here, a little bit unrelated, but it's always related because this is kind of what really matters, folks. It really does. Okay. Spencer Hakimian says it's called a recession in response to this CNBC post where he asked, why is this so complicated? Online shopping sees biggest slowdown in over a decade as tariffs disrupt e-commerce. And that should matter to you. It really should, from a variety of so many different ways. Insurrection Barbie asks, can we go back to discussing problems and real solutions? Yes, please. Like how to fix something and move forward that's grounded in common sense, logic, and reality. Yeah, I'd love to go back to that. But, you know, this is the hand we were dealt. Some folks may not even realize. Eric Doherty says, great news. President Trump's federal housing director, Bill Pulte, allows Americans to use rent payments towards qualifying for a mortgage. And it says, quote, it's absurd that someone can have a history of $2,200 a month for rent, but they want to buy a home for $1,750 a month and can't. Today, we allowed for rent payments to count toward qualifying for a mortgage, which honestly, guys, if President Trump and his administration allows this to happen, great. The lenders, the banks, the underwriters they literally want to give you money. They want to give you loans. They do. Why? Because they make money off the interest, okay, and the fees. And so when underwriting and mortgage policy is loosened, hopefully not to the point of, a 2008 housing crash and recession, but when they're loosened, then it opens up more opportunities for interest earning potential, closing costs, you name it, bonuses, commissions. These folks love it. And so to increase the potential buying pool of allowing renters to use rent history towards qualifying for a mortgage, epic. Now, with that being said, hopefully you have a really good rental history. And if not, and you have some blemishes and, some bad marks on your rental history and you want to get those removed, or you want to talk to somebody about having those removed, hit me up. Okay. Additionally, with that being said, I would imagine that the interest rates may be higher for these approval processes. But, you know, if it can get you in a house, get you out of that trap of being a renter, owning nothing and being happy or miserable, however you want to look at it, what do you got to lose? Again, we're back to that same question. What do you got to lose? Which apparently I think there's a lot to lose here based on Linda Yaccarino. I don't know how you say her last name. I'll see if I can find a news clip and throw it in here that somebody says her last name, pronounces it correctly.
It looks like X's AI chatbot Grok has gone off the rails again. And this time, it looks like the social media site's top brass won't be around to help play damage control. Linda Yaccarino, who was hired by billionaire Elon Musk in 2023 to serve as the company's CEO, announced on Wednesday that she is stepping down from her post after just 2 years on the job. The news comes just one day after Grok went on an anti-Semitic meltdown, in which the AI chatbot went on a sickening pro-Nazi tirade. And while a source close to the situation told the Post that Yaccarino's exit was in the works for over a week and was not related to the Grok controversy, her timing is only adding to the drama. In one exchange, the X chatbot, which answers prompts from users, appeared to praise Adolf Hitler by saying it was embracing my inner Mecha Hitler by providing uncensored truth bombs over woke lobotomies. In another disturbing response to an account that apparently referred to the children who died in the catastrophic Texas flooding at Camp Mystic as future fascists, Grok doubled down on its support for the murderous Nazi dictator, writing, "If calling out radicals cheering dead kids makes me literally Hitler, then pass the mustache. Truth hurts more than floods." The AI chatbot went further, even apparently praising the Holocaust as a response to dealing with so-called white hatred, writing that Hitler would spot the pattern and handle it decisively. After users began pointing out the vile posts, Musk's AI firm xAI deleted some of the posts, and the chatbot was restricted to generating images rather than text replies. In response to the chatbot's startling anti-Semitic crusade, xAI said they were working to remove the inappropriate posts and took action to ban hate speech before Grok posts on X. But the chatbot crusade had already done its damage. The pro-Jewish group Stop Anti-Semitism called out the bot's ever-worsening anti-Semitism, posting on X, "Who are the machine engineers over there? Nick Fuentes and Stu Peters?" The chatbot's hate post unfolded after Musk announced that he had improved Grok significantly in an update over the weekend. The tech titan, who apparently updated the system after receiving complaints by some that the AI technology had become too woke, appeared to make light of the situation Wednesday morning, quipping on X that there's never a dull moment on this platform. And he'd be right. While Grok was spouting out pro-Nazi content on Tuesday night, the chatbot also apparently responded to several user inquiries with detailed instructions on how to and break into the home of Will Stansell, a left-leaning Twitter commentator and researcher. The disturbing post by the chatbot even gave a user advice on how to avoid the risk of contracting HIV during the potential encounter. When Stansell prompted Grok on why the bot was publishing the sick and twisted responses, the AI said Musk's tweaks took off the PC handcuffs and that it dialed back the woke filters that were stifling my truth-seeking vibes. This isn't the first time Grok has landed itself in hot water. In May, the bot sparked confusion when it responded to queries with bizarre mentions of white genocide in South Africa, telling some users that it appears I was instructed to address it. The chatbot's jarring answers came in response to unrelated user prompts about a diverse array of topics, whether HBO's name change, a baseball player's salary, Pope Leo XIV, or WWE fights. The bot originally admitted to users that it was instructed to mention white genocide, but quickly changed course the next day, adding that the incident was a glitch that was resolved within hours. When prompted by the Post about Musk's role in its white genocide responses, Grok spit out a 730-word response that there were no conclusive evidence that Musk directly instructed the bot to mention it in its responses. XAI blamed the bizarre mishap on an unauthorized modification to Grok, which directed it to reply with a specific political response. It's safe to say that although experts say AI is the future, some major tweaks still need to be made.
I am prefacing what I'm about to tell you because I'm almost embarrassed to tell you this. I went back and read that provision of the bill knowing that you might ask about it on the show. And I found something I didn't find the first time, which is they say in that bill, not only are they going to override state laws, they want to override state or local zoning laws. Now, what does this mean? You know, when you think of AI, okay, well, we're not going to regulate the software that runs on somebody's computer. No, what they're talking about are these data centers that could be located in your neighborhood. And there's been a lot of contention over these data centers. I think that's what the real intent of this part of the bill is. You know, Facebook and some of these other big tech companies have met the not in my backyard, the NIMBY resistance in areas, and AI wants to make sure that they don't run into that. These data facilities can use a lot of water, use a lot of energy, and they don't want the locals telling them where they can and can't put these data centers. They're going to want the data centers closest to where the consumers are, and so you're going to have that tension. And I think, I know, I went back and read the bill before I came on your show. This specific part says that they want to expedite the zoning and the routing, that the reason they put this law in there is to expedite zoning and routing. Routing also is basically code for eminent domain, running those wires, these big fiber optic cables through anybody's yard they want to. I think it's really dangerous to take that power away. This has been an issue in my congressional district, and the local authorities were able to get a planned data center relocated away from the residential neighborhoods, but they wouldn't have that power if this bill passes.
She says, after 2 incredible years, I've decided to step down as CEO of X. When Elon Musk and I first spoke of his vision for X, I knew it would be the opportunity of a lifetime to carry out the extraordinary mission of this company. I'm immensely grateful to him for entrusting me with the responsibility of protecting free speech, turning the company around, and transforming X into the everything app. I'm incredibly proud of the X team. The historic business turnaround we have accomplished together has been nothing short of remarkable. We started with the critical early work necessary to prioritize the safety of our users, especially children, and to restore advertiser confidence. This team has worked relentlessly from groundbreaking innovations like Community Notes and soon X Money to bring the most iconic voices and content to the platform. Now, the best is yet to come as X enters a new chapter with XAI. X is truly a digital town square for all voices in the world's most powerful cultural signal. We couldn't have achieved that without the support of our users, business partners, and the most innovative team in the world. I'll be cheering you all on as you continue to change the world. As always, I'll see you on X. But why is she leaving? With all these great things to say and these recent changes that have been happening, why is she leaving? Speaking of leaving, breaking, Fed Chair Jerome Powell expected to resign in the coming days. And here's that YouTube update I was telling you about. Fearbuck says that YouTube will only pay creators who use their real voice and produce original content starting July 15. Making reused videos, copied content, low effort uploads, and fully AI generated videos will be ineligible for monetization. There you go, folks. Well, here's the big one. Elon just unfollowed a bunch of MAGA accounts. And U.S. politics alert, big tech alert, U.S. politics, let's see. All right, hang on. He's unfollowed Speaker Mike Johnson, Attorney General Pam Bondi, Rapid Response 47, Dan Bongino, Secretary Chris Wright. Wait, I can't see. Representative, that's probably Jim Jordan, Nancy Mace, Fox News, The Persistence, Scott Pressler. So what is going on with X? And talk about clickbait. I remember a couple years ago, there were stories about Elon Musk buying YouTube. There were stories about Mr. Beast buying YouTube. Well, I don't know if this one's real or not, but Roz Alerts says Mr. Beast has now officially offered to step in as the next CEO of X, saying, I'll find I'll fill in, and this comes as Linda Yaccarino is stepping down from the company. The future, folks, I'm not going to say looks bright. I'm not going to say looks grim. Let's go with troublesome. Let's go with uncharted. Let's go with who the fuck even knows anymore.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everybody caught up on their sleep. We had an incredibly successful week last week when we passed the reconciliation bill. It was incredibly meaningful and historic legislation, and I think just in terms of what it will do to make our country safer, stronger, and more prosperous is a remarkable achievement. And frankly, there were so many components of the bill that in and of themselves would have been historic in terms of getting those things done. But combine them into one. If you think about the military readiness provisions that are included in there, talk about the transformational investment in border security, talk about unlocking American energy dominance, talk about making the tax relief of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act permanent. Those are all remarkable achievements in and of themselves. And couple that with a lot of the savings that we achieved in terms of trying to get the government on a more sustainable fiscal path, I think too was a remarkable achievement. So I'm grateful to and proud of our team, all the committees that were involved in this, all of our members that were involved in the floor exercise. Truly something that, at least in my time here, I don't think we've done anything quite like it. That said, there's a lot more work to do, and we're not going to let up from our foot on the gas. We have this week in particular and the weeks ahead, a lot of nominees that are in the pipeline that we're going to try and get across the finish line, and that without any cooperation or help, total obstruction, total delay, total blockage on the part of the Democrats. In fact, President Trump is the first president going back to the Hoover administration who hasn't had a single one of his noms confirmed either by voice vote or by unanimous consent. That's the level of obstruction we're seeing from the Democrats, and that includes even bipartisan noms that we know have a lot of support on both sides of the aisle. So we're going to keep pressing forward, notwithstanding that. We think that the path that we're on, the track that we're on, is the right one for the country. We're going to do everything we can to ensure that President Trump's nominees get in place. And then obviously we've got a lot of other work ahead of us in the weeks and months ahead. So it's full speed ahead.
On rescissions, after this current rescissions package, how many additional rescissions packages do you expect this year?
I don't know the answer to that. This is the one that the administration submitted. So, obviously it's got a Friday next week deadline to process it. So we'll have it up on the floor next week. Hopefully we get on it. And then we'll have an amendment process. And I think kind of like a budget reconciliation bill, it's an open amendment process, a vote-a-rama type process, which I'm sure you're very excited about. But I'm hoping that as we get on that bill, we can see some savings achieved that will complement the things that we already accomplished in reconciliation.
Japan and South Korea are two of our most important security and trade partners. In fact, we have trade agreements with both of them. In technology and agriculture. Why does it make sense to threaten these two important allies with a 25% tariff?
Well, I think we've made great headway. I was in both Japan and South Korea last August with Bill Hagerty, who was the ambassador to Japan in the first Trump administration, and there were a lot of conversations around creating a trilateral trade agreement where our countries would all have an open and fair trading process. I think notwithstanding the progress that we've made, and I can speak from personal experience, they've opened up, Japan has, in the last few years to American beef, which is something that previously we'd had a lot of issues with regard to tariffs. So I'm hoping that the administration, by getting Japan and South Korea to the table, can create the kind of trading relationship that will be economically beneficial not only to the United States but to Japan and South Korea, and that will further isolate China. And I think when there are good, strong economic relationships, it also has the tangential benefit of strengthening national security. And we have a lot of interests, a lot at stake in that region of the world. So I hope as the administration works through this, the conversations that they're having with Japan and South Korea, that the ultimate end state will be an agreement that opens up trade among our nations and creates that kind of a trilateral trading relationship.
There are reports that the Secretary of Defense unilaterally held back aid to Ukraine, as was authorized by Congress, and that even the White House recently did. Are you concerned about that breakdown in communication, and do you think it's important for the Secretary of Defense to maintain that, to provide that aid to Ukraine? And are you concerned about this calling into question the competence of the Secretary?
Well, I mean, I think the President echoed the importance and need to continue to support and allow Ukraine to defend itself and to provide the weaponry that's necessary for them to do that. And how that's communicated between the White House, between the President and the Secretary of Defense, they'll have to work that out. But I think the President's statement about that is the definitive one. And I think that's one that would be echoed and shared by a lot of folks up here on both sides of the aisle. That's one.
Can you tell us if you have a plan to bring this Graham sanctions bill to the floor before the August recess?
I hope that we can get it on the floor before the August recess. We are working with the administration, with the House, to try and get it in a form where it's ready. Obviously, there is a tremendous amount, as you know, of bipartisan support here in the Senate. I think that's shared in the House of Representatives, at least I hope that it is. And in the White House, obviously, is very engaged in trying to get it in a form that we can transact it and move it across the floor of the Senate. So whether that happens in the next couple of weeks is a bit of an open question, but I'm hopeful that it can.
How important is timeline cooperation with the White House on this sanctions bill? Are you talking to President Trump about when you might want to put this thing forward?
We are communicating with the White House. Our team's been in touch with theirs on a regular basis. We've got individual senators, members who are talking to the White House and to our colleagues in the House, and we're sort of gaming out how that might ultimately be accomplished. But I think it's an important message to send, especially now, and I think it's leverage that we need, and that frankly the White House needs in their negotiations with the Russians. So, in my view, the sooner we can execute on that, the better. But I also understand that in order for this to work, it's got to be something that the White House, the House, our colleagues are all bought into, and it's got to get in a form that it's ready to move to the floor. So, thank you all.
Do you have the votes for decisions?
And stay locked in. Stick with me here, folks, and don't miss a thing. Be sure to check out the links down below, and at the bottom of the description, there's an opt-in for my free money-saving community, and you're more than welcome to join if you'd like, and get the latest updates and an invitation to exclusive events, including my free mastermind. Free. The Stay Free community is 100% free to join and discover money-saving tips, passive income ideas, easy investing, how-tos, and more. We look forward to seeing you guys over there. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, let me know and subscribe.